Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt. I'm hanging out with my guy here, Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame Fantasy Football.com. We'll be in the same state this weekend, which I'm excited about. Always love having Mike on the show. Hall of Fame Fantasy Football.com is where you need to go when you want that information on how to help your team get forward in fantasy. We do that here with you every Thursday in the second hour of the broadcast in the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub and the Pennant Trophy Center. And Mike does that 24/7 on Hall of Fame Fantasy Football.com. You can also check out wakeupcalldt.com's Fantasy Football tab, NFL predictions, and the injury report, as well as the archive of all of our shows. If you scroll down to the Wake Up Call helmet, you can get it right there as well on the homepage. So, without further ado, let's bring him into the show. Always love talking to the guy. Good man, good person, and a hell of a voice when it comes to fantasy football. Mr. Sofka, how are we doing today?
How you doing, Dan? It's good to be here.
Yes, I love how I just introed you. I gave you that love. I said you were smart. I said you were kind, funny, good guy. And then it's like, hey, man, what's up?
Well, I'm a little distracted. I'm having some work done on the property today, and I'm looking. Hold on a second. Yeah, Octavio. The seasonal flowers go up front. Next to the big fountain where the fountain's going in. Yeah. We're getting a lot of work done here, sitting by the pool, enjoying some frozen cocktails, and wondering how everybody else is enjoying life. Freezing throughout the country, but it's wonderful here in Florida right now. And, oh, by the way, Dan, when you're down here this weekend, come on, lounge by the pool with Lisa and I. This is what we do in Florida. That's all we do is lounge by the pool.
I know, I appreciate that. I respect that, and I thank you for that. And I also tell you that with my Hispanic blood, I'm not letting any of my people work on your property anymore. Not gonna let it happen. You're like, Carlos, no, we're done. Scene. So, no more. Sin nada. But, yeah. Oh, my goodness. So, you're having a good time. You got the pool boy out there. You got the flower pots being planted. You got all this stuff going down. How are you enjoying your day? Because I have snow on the ground, and the only thing that I can tell you is, as a homeowner seeing snow on the ground, I wake up with this piece that says, yes, nobody can see my lawn, hence I don't have to cut my lawn. And that's a great feeling.
No, it's beautiful. Everything is green, the sun's shining, the sky is blue, few clouds going by, no jacket. I can wear shorts if I wanted to, but I'm wearing pants. I'm a professional guy. I got this big conglomerate to run. This estate don't pay for itself. I got a lot of mouths to feed around here. So, it's wonderful. It's everything that Hawaii-type shows are, but it's in Florida. Like Magnum P.I. This is what we do. We just hang out in the sunshine all day, jump in a Jeep, and go solve crimes.
You drink the Miami Vice, the pina colada with the strawberry daiquiri. You wear the Hawaiian shirt, the white pants, the nice shoes, maybe the hat. See, I was born in Syracuse, New York, but I still think I'm a Floridian because there's a lot about my blood that makes me a Floridian.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're human. You enjoy the warmer weather. You enjoy the sunshine. That's what it's there for. We get vitamins from the sun, and this is what we do in Florida. Nobody works. Nobody works. We're all at the beach and the pool all day, and then we just go about our day and have fun. It's one constant party.
Well, it must be really nice to have that because you get vitamin D from the sun. Up in Syracuse, we get vitamin D from Flintstone vitamins. So it's a little bit different, but kind of the same.
Nice.
I love your one-word responses. They kill me. They kill me. I really do. So, but it's all good. We're here with Mike Sofka, Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com. Mike, we got a lot to get into. I can't believe it's Week 11. Goes by so fast. It must be that, I like working with you. But we're in Week 11, and our Thursday night game is, well, on paper, it's a good game. It's Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. Seattle kind of stinks, but they're okay at home because of their 12th man. It's the one place they can kind of sort of win. And Green Bay is in a position right now where they're in a little bit of trouble because Chicago's good and Minnesota's good. So thoughts on this one? Let's start it off with Green Bay at Seattle, fantasy football advice, and of course, as always, who you're picking in this one.
Well, I'm going to have to go with the home team here just because, well, Green Bay doesn't play very well on the road. I mean, they haven't played well on the road in a while. So, and then you never know what crew of refs are going to show up. Is it going to be an incomplete or a touchdown? Because they'll argue about it in the end zone, and then we'll have more memes to put on Facebook. Look, Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. He's still a top 10 quarterback no matter where he plays. If he steps on the field, he's a top 10 quarterback. Now, Russell Wilson hasn't been that fortunate, not this year, hasn't been able to get things done, and I think it's been the inconsistency in the backfield. Chris Carson's been dinged up. Mike Davis was able to jump in there, but now, we also saw, the rookie come out and shine Rashad Penny. So now I think it's going to be back to mired in a committee situation with Carson taking the lead, even though Penny had the big explosive game. So I think that kind of hurts everybody's value there in the backfield in Seattle, but I got Carson ranked as the number 23 running back this week. Green Bay's been real fortunate on the other side. Aaron Jones has been explosive. He's been making plays. Ever since he was able to get back on the field, it's been up, and you keep seeing that bar get risen for him, and I like that. And you know what else I like? Devontae Adams, their number one receiver there, number 11 on my ranking this week. I think Devontae Adams is going to have a pretty big game, and he's going to have to, but Valdez-Scantling, this guy has done so much. This guy's going to line up. He's going to be the starter on the opposite side there. Randall Cobb still kind of dinged up. Valdez-Scantling, this is a guy who got speed. He can hang on to the ball. He can make a move. They like getting in the ball like that in space so he can do something with it. Now, Green Bay hasn't been as lucky with their tight end, Jimmy Graham, going back what I call home. He was there for 3 years in Seattle. Didn't really do much in Seattle based on what the hype was for him in New Orleans. They used him a little bit differently in New Orleans, lined him up on the outside a lot as well and in the slot. Jimmy Graham struggling to come back from injury this week, so it's going to be interesting to see. So make sure you have another plan in place if he's not going to play. But right now, if he does play, I think he's going to try to show out there. I think they're going to try to get him the ball. I think he'll be the number 5 tight end on my ranking this week. And then on the other side, Nick Vinette's been on the up. I think this guy has a touchdown in the last couple games. Again, these are guys that you're not going to find tight end one numbers in, but he could be a fill-in. There's 6 teams on a bye this week. Nick Vinette checking in at number 17 on my rankings. So if you're in a league that favors touchdowns over yards and combo, that might be the guy because he's probably due to get a touchdown in this game. And again, I like Seattle at home just because Green Bay struggles on the road, but you're going to get good fantasy numbers on both sides of the ball.
The interesting thing about Nick Vinette is he has 2 touchdowns this season, both of them in back-to-back weeks, and both of them against teams that play in Los Angeles. So just kind of an interesting thing there is, can he do it against the Midwest, because he's done it against the West. But as we look at this game, like you said, you're taking the home team, Green Bay at Seattle in this one. Aaron Rodgers, obviously you got to play him if you got him. Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams. I'm not a big Jamal Williams fan, but Aaron Jones, if you have to be flex, put him out there. I don't see him as higher than a running back 3. Devontae Adams, I like a lot. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, South Florida. Obviously, everybody knows I've covered the American Athletic Conference since its institution 5 years ago, so he was a part of it. I like Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I like the fact that he's coming up. I like the fact that he's doing kind of more young now. He was drafted in the 5th round this year. So I like him and Devontae. Devontae and Aaron are a great tandem, have helped me out and got me out of potential crises this season. So I do like that. Russell Wilson's not a bad one to play. He's a low-end quarterback 1, high-end 2. And Mike Davis, Rashad Penny, it's hard for me to trust in any of these guys, and they're playing Green Bay, so I don't feel too good about that. Tyler Lockett as a low-end wide receiver 2, if not a high-end 3. And then Nick Vinette, like you said, he's not getting a ton of yards, but he's getting in the end zone, so Russell Wilson is looking for him. And I think they want to prove that they don't need Jimmy Graham anymore, because this is one of those games where Jimmy's coming back to town. So I think Nick Vinette, if you're just looking for maybe a touchdown, don't look for yards in this one. But if you have a tight end, you're really not looking for yards in general. So if Jimmy's ready to go, then Jimmy's worth the play because he's coming back to Seattle. And Nick Vinette, I like him in this one as well. And I am going to go with, this is tough for me. You went with the Seahawks. I'm going to go with, this is so tough. This is tough. because this is a night game with a quarterback that knows how to come back. I'm going to go with the Packers in this one. I'm picking the Packers in this one. I know it's just because Seattle has the 12th man, or else it would be a lot easier, but I'm going to pick the Packers. Cowboys at the Falcons. What do you have for this, Mike?
Yeah, this should be somewhat of a shootout, I would think, because I think the Cowboys are actually going to be able to move the ball. Amari Cooper looks like he might be able to do a little something. I think that things are on the uptick now. They're starting to believe, and they're led by Ezekiel Elliott. Now, they have to get Zeke the ball. That is the formula. If you let Zeke run for 60 yards, you're going to lose the game, Jerry Jones. And I say Jerry Jones because he's the puppet master. He's the guy pulling all the strings to this. Wow, I'm going to have to bleep myself here. I was going to say, the bottom line is the bottom line. That's the problem with the Cowboys. So if you're a Cowboy fan, sorry about your luck, Chuck, but that's your problem. Atlanta's got a soft defense, and that's mostly due to injury. And you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm going to take Atlanta in this game at home. I think Matt Ryan is going to have an okay game. Okay, meaning he's the number 6 quarterback on my ranking this week. I think Dak Prescott is going to look like, Dak Prescott. He's going to be a middle-of-the-road quarterback at number 15 this week. Zeke is the answer for Dallas. Hopefully they know that for Zeke's sake. Checking in at number 5 on my rankings, provided they're going to get him the ball. And I think they're going to be able to do that because Amari Cooper is out there now. They actually have somewhat of a threat at receiver. Now, Amari Cooper, not a wide receiver 1, low-end wide receiver 2 at 23 on my rankings this week, but they're going to have to throw the ball. This could be a little bit of a back and forth, a little bit of a scoring fest for some of the guys, and some of the guys that might get in the end zone. Most recently got in the end zone was Julio Jones, number 7 on my rankings this week. And then, Calvin Ridley is going to be Calvin Ridley. He may score 3 touchdowns for 10 yards, or he may not get a target. I mean, you can't really count on this guy right now, unfortunately. And, part of that's because Austin Hooper's been coming around, number 12 tight end on my rankings this week. And, the thing with the Cowboys is they don't really have a tight end. I don't know who it is. Every
Jeff
time I
Swain.
It's another guy catching the ball, and it's some guy who was bagging groceries last week. Swain, Jarwin, Schultz, Rico, what's his name? Rico Gathers?
You're looking for Rico Suave. It's okay. I understand.
Yeah. I think he's going to be the guy long-term down the road, but you're probably in a situation. This is week 11, man. You need to win now. We ain't got time for games. This ain't no dynasty. This is win now or go home. So if you have guys like Cole Beasley, I don't think they're the answer for you. Tavon Austin, Michael Gallup, Allen Hurns, none of these guys are the answer, but you already know that by now. And on Atlanta's side, you're going to have a Julio Jones to count on. Now, look, Tevin Coleman hasn't been the top guy out there, but it is what it is. That's what they got. I like Ito Smith in a touchdown situation, but mainly as a flex-type player. And Tevin Coleman not that much higher, maybe as a running back too. If he's going to, I have no confidence in the running game in Atlanta for some reason right now. I have no confidence in their defense, but I'm still going to take them to beat the Cowboys. How about that?
Well, I don't deny you on this one. The Atlanta Falcons have been up and down. Their offenses look better than it has in the past. And I thought their offense was going down a little bit the last couple seasons. It's trended up a bit here. They definitely have the talent to beat the Dallas Cowboys. I think they ultimately will defeat the Dallas Cowboys. I think that, Jason Garrett is on the hot seat with his job, but the reality of it all is sometimes I feel like he's on the hot seat, sometimes I don't, because he's a great puppet for Jerry Jones. So, and you can't have a coach with a lot of, push to him, so to speak, because that's not a Jerry Jones guy. He needs somebody he can manipulate. And I'm not trying to say that Jason Garrett's soft. I'm just saying it's not Jimmy Johnson, and it's never been close to Jimmy Johnson. You could say Bill Parcells, but still is a little bit different. So the injury report for this, Mohamed Sanu is injured. He is questionable to play in the game, I believe, with a hip injury. And then for the Dallas Cowboys, you do want to look at this, even though it's not a skill player. Zach Martin, offensive guard, is questionable with a knee injury. He has been hurt throughout the season. Tyron Smith, a starting tackle as well, has a back injury, is questionable, just because of protecting Dak Prescott and obviously the running game. I'll make it easy for you. The Cowboys, you play Ezekiel Elliott. Amari Cooper, flex. Michael Gallup, I'd probably leave him off. He's a wide receiver 4. Cole Beasley, not a bad flex. Amari Cooper, not a bad flex. Ezekiel Elliott, worth starting. Dak Prescott, hell no. Because I watched Dak do what he did last week, where he would complete a pass, and they would gain 20 yards, and they move the ball forward, and then he'd run backwards and not know where to go and forget that he's a quarterback and just fall down. So I'm not a fan of his quarterbacking in his junior season, but I do like Zeke, and I do think Cooper is somebody to kind of roll the dice on, especially late in the season here. If you need a little bit of help, you just need a few more points to get over the hump. Maybe Amari's your guy. Maybe Cole Beasley can do something for you. On the other side of it, I think Matt Ryan's worth the play. Tevin Coleman, I like Ito Smith as a flex guy too. I have Ito on my team. Julio Jones, not a bad play. Calvin Ridley, I want to believe that this guy can bring some positive consistency. He's going up against the Dallas Cowboys soft defense, and they're going to be at home in Atlanta inside of the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is beautiful, and I've been there. So I believe Atlanta's going to win, and if Calvin Ridley wants to go off a little bit, now's the time to do so. Carolina at Detroit, what do you have for this?
This is going to be an interesting game, but, mainly because of the injury situations, I think. I'm pretty sure there's an injury situation with Marvin Jones, and I'm not sure how that's going to turn out. But, one thing I do know is Cam likes him some Cam. So I'm going to go with Cam, and I'm going to take Carolina in this game. And I like Cam Newton, one of the top quarterbacks, second only to Patrick Mahomes on my ranking. On the other side of the ball, Matt Stafford seems to be struggling a little bit this year, and you take away receiver and Golden Tate and trade him away. Now you got Marvin Jones dinged up. Now what? The running back situation hasn't gotten much better. Kerryon Johnson's been doing a great job, but outside of that, what's going on in Detroit? They're going to have to answer, and guys that are in the slot against Detroit end up doing well. We picked up on this weeks ago. I spoke about Anthony Miller last week. And what did he do? Like 122 and a touchdown? I don't know. I don't have it in front of me. Look for a guy like a DJ Moore. Look for a guy like a Torrey Smith and a Greg Olsen to go off. These are guys that you may not normally count on. I know Greg Olsen normally leads the league, leads the team in targets. He checks in at number 3 on my ranking. But look for one of those other guys to surprise. If you're in daily, maybe play one of those guys, DJ Moore. See what happens. Christian McCaffrey, he's going to be Christian McCaffrey, especially in the PPR league, definitely an RB1. Number 7 on my rankings this week in standard scoring. And Detroit, like I said, Detroit's Detroit. I think it's going to be led by Kenny Golladay. Look for Brandon Powell to make some inroads now. And, again, I don't know what's going on with the tight end. There's a tight end shortage in this league, and Detroit has our boy Toilolo, Wilson, and Roberts. And I think Roberts is dinged up right now, Michael Roberts. So, I feel bad for Matt Stafford. I think it could be a big game for Kerryon Johnson. He's a borderline RB1, RB2. And I think it could be a big game because it doesn't look like the passing options are going to help them much. And hopefully they'll be able to just run the ball, and keep Cam off the field. That would be the game plan for me. But I don't think that's going to be successful. And I'm going to take the Panthers on the road in Detroit.
Yeah, the funny thing is I don't feel like Detroit, when there's things that they're supposed to do, they don't do them, and you know that, and I know that. So they're supposed to run the ball. It doesn't mean they're necessarily going to scheme that way. So I am going to take Carolina in this game as well. I'm going to take the Panthers to win this because of the fact now Greg Olsen is questionable, Cam Newton is questionable. And the funny thing is one of my good friends, one of my closest friends, Joey Khalil, there's a Matt Khalil and a Ryan Khalil on this team. He is not related to them. He does jokingly tell everybody that he is. But the Khalil family, they're on the injury report right now. Matt Khalil is on injury reserve. Ryan Khalil is limited and questionable for the week. Torrey Smith has been questionable in his play all season. His knee injury leaves him questionable. Greg Olsen has a foot injury, and Cam Newton has a shoulder injury. I don't think it'll keep Greg or Cam off the field. Definitely not Cam. I feel like he plays no matter what. And you're right about Marvin Jones. His knee injury has him questionable for the game. So for Carolina, you and I see eye to eye on this. Cam loves him some Cam. He always calls number 1, and he wears the number of what he thinks he is. So, he's number 1 to himself. That's good. You should always be your own number 1, but Cam is very Cam-related. He's a lot of Cam. So there's I love myself, and then there's maybe back away a little bit, Cam. It's not safe. So I do think he's missing the boat, though, on a huge sponsorship with Fig Newtons. and I don't know why he's waiting. I really don't. I think he should be on every single bag of them. I'd still buy them, Cam, just so you know. I mean, I appreciate it, and I think you should do it. But he's missing the boat. Obviously, he doesn't have the right agent. Call me, Cam. I'm available. Christian McCaffrey is a guy who I would play in this game as well. Funchess, wide receiver 3. Greg Olsen, if he's healthy, low end 1. I don't like that he's been injured all season, obviously, and I don't like the fact that he hasn't really gotten a lot of positive fantasy play. Kerryon Johnson on the other side, yes, I'm a big fan. Kenny Galladay, he gets boosted this week to me because of Marvin Jones. If Marvin Jones is good to go, he's worth the play, but Kenny Galladay definitely. And if somebody let him go for some odd reason, go snatch him up right now. I am picking the Carolina Panthers to win this one. Titans at the Colts, Mike, thoughts on the Titans team that, what did I say last week? They can beat anybody. They stay in games. The Jaguars leave the door open, and they always come through that door with guns blazing. If they were on The Walking Dead, they are Negan right now, and they just find a way to get out of jail and wreak some havoc, and they are swinging Lucille all over the square. Titans are playing the Colts. They are an enigma sometimes, so they could lose this game. But they are one of the hottest teams that nobody's talking about, and they just may win the division of the AFC South as the Jaguars decided to start playing, badminton and not football anymore. So thoughts on the Titans at the Colts?
And not to toot my own horn, not on this broadcast with you last week, but somebody asked me what I thought a long shot would be to win last week outright. I did take the Titans. That's on my website. It's documented. But, the same thing goes here. They're going to come back to earth. And they are the Titans. They are an enigma, like you said. And I'm going to take Indianapolis at home. I know Malik Hooker. I know Clayton Gathers. I know the defense is a little bit dinged up. I know things aren't looking right, but they're actually starting to run the ball a little bit. And I think that's helping Andrew Luck and the Colts. Marlon Mack, back from injury, has been steadily, again, on the uptick like an Aaron Jones every week. Every week he seems to look a bit better, and that helps the team as a whole. That helps them gain confidence. That helps Andrew Luck's confidence. Don't forget, it wasn't long that Andrew Luck was, wondering if he was ever going to play football again. Was out almost 2 years. This is a guy who's not going to win your league for you today. He's not going to do that, but if he's a guy that's still around, or if he's a guy that's on your team as a backup, you may be able to count on him this week as a bye-week fill-in, number 18 on my rankings this week. Just have your expectations in check and hope that the rest of your team comes through. Maybe you have a guy like Marlon Mack. He's a bottom-end running back 1 for me on my rankings this week. PPR, you might even get an uptick on that. It might be a little bit higher, maybe a 9 or a 10. And then looking at the wide receiver, T.Y. Hilton's normally the guy there, and, they're trying to get something going again there, and I think they are. And T.Y. Hilton's a bottom-end wide receiver, too. Now, he's been climbing his way back. He was dinged up, and Andrew Luck and him weren't connecting that well. Well, now it seems that they are. Now, I think part of that's thanks to the depth they have at tight end. Jack Doyle, bottom-end tight end 1. Eric Ebron. Eric Ebron ran like a jet sweep last week. He's number 7. So the Colts have 2 tight ends in my top 11. So either one of those guys, both of those guys will probably score. We even saw a Mo Alley Cox appearance last week as a touchdown as well. So they got the depth at tight end. So that's one thing they got going for them in Indianapolis. Look, the bottom line is still the bottom line. Tennessee's a good team. They're going to make efforts to get the ball to Corey Davis, the number 1 receiver there. And for that, he's a top-end wide receiver, too. He's been on the uptake. And then Dion Lewis. Dion Lewis is, in my mind, outperformed Derrick Henry week in, week out, so far this season and every week without fail. Dion Lewis, number 19 on my rankings. Derrick Henry, number 30. And Dion Lewis gets ticked up in PPR. I like Tennessee. I like what they do. I think they're capable of winning games like they did last week. I like the coaching. I like the direction the team's heading in. But I think they come back to earth this week in Indianapolis, and I'm taking the Colts.
I'm taking the Titans in this one, and it's tough. It's really tough. But I think if the Titans win this one, it's just I feel like this would be like a 31-20, 31-14 type thing. I'm not a big fan of Mariota. I really am not. Dion Lewis, I think, is worth the play. It's hard to say I think Tennessee could do it, but the question I find hysterical is I'm always like, well, who are they doing it with? Because when I look at the Titans in fantasy, I never feel really, really good about telling you to play any of them. I mean, Deion Lewis is not a bad bet. I'm not a big fan of Derrick Henry. Corey Davis, Jonnu Smith. I think Jonnu Smith in this game potentially as a tight end for you if you need somebody. If there's injuries, you got to go pick somebody up. He's probably out there. Corey Davis, Western Michigan guy, up and down. I like to see more out of him. Corey Davis is a wide receiver 3 for me. And I do like Deion Lewis. He could be your backup running back. He could be your guy this week. So I do like that. On the other side of the matchup for the Colts, Andrew Luck, you got to put him out there in this game. Jordan Wilkins, it's funny. He was the starter, and he had 1 carry for 53 yards in last week's game, and that was it. So Nyheim Hines, I mean, everybody's kind of low on this. Marlon Mack, I don't feel good about any of these guys because they share the ball, and none of them really get a lot of yards. Marlon had 12 carries for 29 yards, which is awful. So T.Y. Hilton, give him a shot, give him an opportunity. He's not what he used to be and not what I think he should be. But T.Y. Hilton, wide receiver, I would say he's a low end 2, high end 3. I'm just not sold on him anymore, really. Eric Ebron, can we talk about this, Mike? He had 3 touchdowns last week. He had a rushing touchdown last week. Put the tight end in, pound the ball, 2 yards out, make it happen. And then he had 2 receiving touchdowns. Eric Ebron, Detroit, what were you doing with this man? Because obviously his talents were not being utilized. I don't know what's going on. And they have a good quarterback in Matt Stafford. But Eric Ebron, he's just a different player there. And I like him. I like Luck really more than anything. T.Y. Hilton, you could give that a shot. And I'm going to go with the Titans on the road. Bucks at the Giants. What do you have for this one?
Yeah, well, anytime the Bucks are involved, there's going to be some fantasy points. Just because they can't play defense. I mean, that's pretty much what it comes down to. The Bucks are going to give up how many points? The Bucks are going to give up how many yards? The Bucks are going to do this. The Bucks are going to do that. One thing they're not going to do is have a steady diet of ground and pound because that's not what they do. The running back situation in Tampa, Barber's limited, Jones is limited, Levante David Levante. It's funny because if you look up Levante David on sub websites, sometimes they list it with his last name first, thinking his name is David Levante, but it's Levante David. I think sorry, I just had to drop that in there. Look, Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be a guy you can count on again. Although last week he didn't have any touchdowns, he did still throw for like 400 yards or something stupid like that. So you can count on him as a bye-week fill-in. Again, you're not winning your league with Ryan Fitzpatrick, not at his recent performance. And the Giants, I think, are a little bit suspect in the secondary as well, even though they just traded away Eli Apple. I think that's the reason they're a little bit suspect. Eli Manning, number 11 on my rankings. And you know what? He's normally a guy that's mired in the high teens or the 20s, but he's going up against Tampa. They can't stop anybody. It's going to be a blowout. There's going to be some back and forth scoring. I don't mean to say blowout. It's going to be high scoring back and forth. And for the record here, I'm going to have to go with the Giants. I'm going to go with the home team, and I think they're going to be led by Saquon Barkley, number 3 running back on my ranking this week. I talked about Peyton Barber being dinged up, Ronald Jones being dinged up. Either one of those guys might be a running back 3 led by Peyton Barber, probably be the number 1 guy. But I don't think you can really count on those guys. Receiver-wise, they're going to have to throw the ball, both teams. Odell Beckham Jr., number 2 receiver on my rankings this week, going up against that soft Tampa secondary. Mike Evans, number 16 wide receiver on my rankings this week. Sterling Shepard will probably check in, probably get some points for you, maybe a wide receiver 3 type situation. Evan Ingram, you can count on him as a bottom end tight end this week, number 8 on my rankings this week. And Tampa, O.J. Howard, they have a tight end to counter that. Number 6 on my rankings this week. Look for a guy like maybe a Deshaun Jackson to catch a big play, stretching the field deep. Chris Godwin's banged up, so Adam Humphries may be one of those deep guys you can reach for in daily. Going to be a lot of fantasy points in this one. Going to be some back and forth and some scoring, but not because of the talent on both sides. It's because of the lack of defense on both sides. I'm going with the home team in the Giants.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I'm going to go with the Giants in this game, too. I think this is like a, it could be a 23-20 game, something like that. I do, Fitzpatrick, obviously, he's done some good things, and he's brought some positive play and obviously some fantasy points to you. So it's hard to keep him off the field because he can do a lot of different things. I don't like the Giants secondary. I don't like the Giants defense in general. So I think that there's a lot to be said about playing somebody like Ryan Fitzpatrick against the Giants this week. I do want to look at injuries. Really nothing on the Giants side. Peyton Barber has an ankle injury, but he hasn't done anything. Chris Godwin has been quiet too. He has an ankle injury at wide receiver for the Bucs, and he is questionable in this game. So when we look at the grand scheme of things, I want to start with Tampa. I like Ryan Fitzpatrick in the game. I think he's worth the play. Jacquizz Rodgers, every single year, they never pay the man. They never give the man the starting job outright. They never respect the man, in my opinion. But when Peyton Barber sucks and Ronald Jones is garbage and then nobody else is doing anything, Jacquizz Rodgers has to step it up. So if you're looking for somebody on the waiver wire or in free agency that you got to pick up and put on your team due to injury, bye week, whatever it may be, because there's 6 teams off this week, Jacquizz Rodgers not a bad guy to put on there. Mike Evans, I like him too. Chris Godwin, if he's healthy, flex guy. Deshaun Jackson, I would like him in this one. O.J. Howard, you got to watch because he is somebody. I mean, I think that he's good for this game. I really honestly think that he can bring it in this game. So I'm a fan of O.J. Howard, and Cameron Brate is he's not out of it, but I would lean a little bit more on O.J. Howard. And then on the other side of things, Saquon Barkley, Odell Beckham Jr., Sterling Shepard, Evan Engram are all potential plays for you, positive plays for you. Engram has gone down. Odell Beckham Jr., he gets numbers, but is not getting in the end zone as much as I'd like to see if he's on your team. He's on one of my teams. Sterling Shepard stepped it up. Sterling Shepard was kind of a forgotten guy a couple of years ago, and he stepped it with Victor Cruz and all them there, and he stepped his game up. And Saquon obviously is the best bet. I think that they get the victory. I think they squeak it out by a field goal, and the Giants get the win. Texans at the Redskins. Before we take a step aside, Mike, what do you have for this?
Yeah, there's some players dinged up in this one, and one of the things I want to talk about is real quick is Donta Foreman. He's back practicing. He's probably not going to take the field till December. But remember what we always say, if you're not 2 weeks ahead, you're a week behind. So you want to start looking at that and forecasting. Are you in a league where you're going to need some running back support help in the playoffs to get you through the playoffs? What if Lamar Miller goes down? Who's going to take over? Is it going to be Alfred Blue? Is it going to be Donta Foreman? I think it's going to be Donta Foreman. He's going to have fresh legs. He's going to be back. They're going to gradually ease him back. But that's right during the playoffs. So if you have a deep bench, that might be a guy you may want to go out and store right away on your bench. Look, they've been dinged up at receiver with both Hopkins and Kiki Cootie being dinged up. But you know what? The Redskins have some guys dinged up too, and Chris Thompson and Jamison Crowder. They're dinged up on the line as well. So I think even Adrian Peterson may be dinged up in this one. So there's going to be a lot to watch and see between now and game time. Look, the bottom line is still the bottom line. I think Houston's the better team. Both teams are at 6-3. Both teams have their strengths and weaknesses. And one of those strengths is usually quarterback for the Houston Texans, and it's not. It's Deshaun Watson's been struggling a little bit. Number 13 on my rankings this week. So hopefully if you have Deshaun Watson, this is a manageable situation for you. I have him in a league or two, and I'm fortunate enough to have other options when he's struggled. And Washington's been playing some pretty good defense as of late. So I'm not sure they're going to have the explosiveness from the running back and Adrian Peterson they're used to with Washington. And on the other side of the ball, I'm not sure Lamar Miller is going to be able to penetrate that Washington defense. Washington's defense is pretty stellar. So I got Lamar Miller and Adrian Peterson ranked about the same. They should have equal difficulty running the ball. I don't think either guy is an elite running back. Lamar Miller, I've never felt that way about him. And Adrian Peterson, obviously in the twilight of his career. So look for those guys to be bottom end running back twos for you. Receiver wise, DeAndre Hopkins, anytime he steps on the field, he's definitely a top 5. And again, I know the quarterback situation's been a little struggle for Watson lately, and well, thus goes the receiver situation, but they're going to have to throw the ball. And they're going to have to throw the ball. And when they throw the ball, they're going to have to throw it to DeAndre Hopkins. He's the number one option there. So just by sheer targets alone, and he's able to get some of those targets. And you know what? He's going to share the field a little bit with Demaryius Thomas as well. Now, Demaryius Thomas, you can't count on him to do much more than a flex for you. But I would rather have Demaryius Thomas up against the number 2 corner while the number 1 corner is going up against DeAndre Hopkins. I think Demaryius Thomas can beat most number 2 corners. So he may be an affordable guy, maybe in a daily fantasy situation. Tight end, looks like Jordan Reed is the number 1 guy on the field for both teams, but even he's been having a down year. I'm just surprised he's on an IR by now. He's usually missing games and dinged up. He's not on IR. He's just not performing, which is equally as bad, if not worse. He is performing at a level where I have to rank him at number 9 on my rankings this week just because of a shortage of tight ends in the league right now and a shortage of tight ends playing this week. He's going to get you some points, all right? Now, on the other side of the ball, I'm not sure they have a guy that can answer. There's a couple guys that Houston has at tight end, and Jordan Thomas looks like the guy to most likely get the benefit, but you know, those guys have been dinged up and cannibalizing each other, so it wouldn't surprise me to see one of the other guys in a Griffin or an Aiken step up. You know, I like Houston. I like their game. I like Washington. I like their game. But I'm going to have to go with Houston in this game. I think Houston's going to have a little bit more in their tank than Washington. Washington's been playing well lately, but it just seems like they're going to be, I don't know, running out of steam, running out of power, running out of something. One thing's for sure, they're going to have to run behind Adrian Peterson, and I don't think he's going to be as effective as